All right, welcome to part two. All right, so when I got cut off, we were talking about handing off, about doing the seamless transition. It's also very professional. It also demonstrates you know your topic, not just your part. You know what's coming after you. The person that is receiving it also is aware of what you've been talking about, and so they receive, right, and they're consciously aware in the presentation of where their topic relates to the other ones, because you receive that information, right, that handoff of the microphone, so to speak, right. This also demonstrates politeness, teamwork, camaraderie, collaboration. It really speaks well of your entire group. You guys, and it also demonstrates a lot of that kind of with the extemporaneous style. There's good planning, right? And there's been good rehearsal. Everyone knows their part and knows that not just their part, but everyone else's part as well. And then that brings me back to, well, not back to, but eye contact, right? We've talked a little bit about this briefly in part one, where be aware of where you're looking. Because a lot of times we have a tendency to look down. Like I'm looking down at myself here in the lower right. It looks like I'm looking left. And then if I'm just looking at my PowerPoint slide, and then if I just read it off, look into the actual camera, focus more on the green or blue dot where the camera lens is located, right? And then we just read that off and then hand out to the next person. We never really look at our audience. And eye contact is important for several reasons. I think the primary reason is that it also demonstrates that you've planned, that you have researched, got the extemporaneous style down, and you understand where the audience is. And the audience likes to be spoken with more than just at, right? So if you're kind of ignoring the audience, they don't feel like they're involved. If I'm looking down this whole time or reading down here from my notes, we're not getting that interaction. Granted, we're not standing in front of the class as we normally would, right? If this is a face-to-face class. And so you miss some of that. But this is the closest thing we can do, right? Best we can do. Understand what might our audience be doing at this moment. I'm trying to picture what you're doing when you're sitting there watching my silly videos sometimes, right? And so how do I make sure that I'm coming across? And you want to also have that sincerity, right? You've planned, you've rehearsed, you've researched, you know what you're doing, and you want to get that across, right? So your dot might be a different color than blue or green. I'm only aware of blue or green. So whatever the dot is, and where it kind of helps you focus in on about where the camera is, right? That's where your audience is. So just be aware of that. Start practicing that. And then your rate of speech. This is tough sometimes. As I pause, sometimes we're not comfortable with silence. So don't try to be an auctioneer or feel like you have to get through it in 20 seconds. And don't overly worry about time, right? I give ranges of times, but I don't grade on time. I'm not going to sit here with a stopwatch. I'm going to be focusing more on, was everything addressed? Was it addressed thoroughly? Did it feel like the audience understood what was being addressed, right? What those things were to get across to the audience. You think the audience could receive it? Did the audience understand it? Was the rate of speech good, a good pace, right? We also think about maybe tone sometimes. We don't want to talk in the same voice the whole time, even if we're pausing every once in a while. Think about those things. And don't worry about pauses. Pauses are good. Let your audience catch up to what you're saying. And then process. The brain has to process and listen, and then it's got to enter the mind and keep that information flow. So it's okay to pause every once in a while, even if it's a pause to glance down real quick to see where you're going to go next, right? I'll do that every once in a while, even though I kind of know where I'm going. I want to make sure I hit the target, so to speak. So your audience has to process and also remember what you're saying in addition to just what's on here, right? This last bullet point here for me, way too long if I was giving a presentation, I think when I give presentations to audiences for training or teaching or whatever, because I want them to be focusing on what I'm saying and hopefully say something that begins to resonate and help them, I don't want to say remember, right? So these are the things. Let me go back up to the overall kind of the format. I just want you to start practicing and not judging or grading, okay, harshly. To be thinking about extemporaneous style. Think about handing off. It's not going to be perfect the first time. You might not be able to feel totally comfortable being extemporaneous because then you feel like you're out